So, what happens when the technology that your entire world runs on is about to become a relic? Today, we're going to look at a really pivotal piece of software that acted as a lifeline, a bridge that saved whole industries from getting stranded in the past during a massive tech revolution.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. You've built your whole business on a powerful, super reliable system, only to watch the world around you change at lightning speed, making your core tech obsolete. Well, that was the exact crisis facing countless businesses back in the late 80s and early 90s.
To really get what was going on, we first need to take a look at a powerful but, well, increasingly isolated technology. It all kicked off with the PIC operating system way back in the 1970s and its really unique way of looking at data.
At its heart was something called the MultiValue database. Now, unlike a rigid spreadsheet where every little cell holds just one piece of info, MultiValue was designed to mirror the kind of messy reality of the real world. Think of it less like a spreadsheet and more like a dynamic filing cabinet, where one single folder can hold a whole bunch of related documents.
And this right here just perfectly illustrates the core difference. See, while a typical relational database field held just one item, a multi-value field could hold an entire list. This was an absolute game changer for things like invoices with multiple line items, or complex medical records, or even lists of manufacturing parts.
And because of this incredible flexibility, you had entire industries building their most critical systems on this data model. We're talking retail managing inventory, hospitals tracking patient histories. MultiValue was the engine running everything behind the scenes, holding decades of priceless business logic.
But while all these robust text-based systems were humming along just fine, the rest of the computing world was going through a massive, seismic shift. The very idea of what a computer interface should be was about to change forever.
Yeah, the move from those old green screen terminals to colorful graphical user interfaces, or GUIs, it was fast and it was absolute. After Windows 1.0 popped up in '85, the shift just accelerated. By the early 90s, graphical windows were the standard. People didn't want to type commands anymore, they wanted to click on buttons.
And this created a totally impossible situation. Businesses had these super powerful data models they just couldn't abandon, but their users were demanding a modern Windows experience. All that critical information was essentially trapped behind a green screen. They were completely stuck between a rock and a hard place.
So how do you solve a problem like that? Well, into this gap steps a company called Revelation Software. And they provided the one thing that everyone was desperately looking for, a bridge.
They launched a product called Open Insight, and it was just a stroke of genius. It was a full-on development environment for building modern Windows applications, but, and this is the key part, it was built around that familiar and powerful PIC-style multi-value engine.
All of a sudden, developers had a clear path forward. They didn't have to throw everything away and start from square one. No, they could keep their valuable data model, use Open Insight to build a modern graphical interface right on top of it, and even hook it into other modern databases like SQL.
So, what did this transformation actually look like in the real world? Well, for the businesses that took this leap, the impact was immediate. It was visual, and it solved their single biggest headache. So you'd start with something like this. Your reliable, but let's be honest, visually dated text-only inventory system. I mean, it was functional, sure, but to a new generation of computer users, it looked like a relic from a bygone era. But with Open Insight, a developer could essentially put a new face on the old system. They could completely rebuild the user-facing part without having to touch or throw away years of proven, complex back-end logic that actually made the business run. And the result? A modern Windows application that users could immediately understand. It had buttons, menus, graphical reports, the whole shebang. And all of it was still being powered by that same robust multi-value engine in the background. This was the exact lifeline they needed.
Okay, so why was this so successful? When you pop the hood and look at the details, you can see that Revelation wasn't just a clever idea, it was a tool built specifically to solve this stranded developer problem. It had literally everything those developers needed. It used their native multi-value file storage. You'd often see those .lk and .ov extensions. It had a powerful scripting language that was really similar to the BASIC they already knew and loved. And, most critically, it had connectivity to the wider world of data through standards like SQL and ODBC.
And this right here is the key. It perfectly balanced the old and the new. See, it didn't try to force the complex, nested data of MultiValue into a rigid, relational box. Instead, it held on to that flexibility while also learning to speak the language of modern databases. It could coexist.
And that's why Revelation is best understood not just as another database product, but as essential connective tissue in the evolution of business computing. It didn't invent something brand new out of thin air, it preserved the immense value of something old, and it prevented a catastrophic break in the tech timeline.
So when you boil it all down, Revelation's real innovation wasn't just a list of features. It was a practical path forward. It saved companies millions in redevelopment costs and preserved decades of institutional knowledge that was encoded in their data. It saved a valuable technology and the businesses built on it from being left behind.
Which leaves us with a final thought, right? In our own era of nonstop technological change, with AI, the cloud, Web3 all fighting for the future, what are the essential bridge technologies that we might be overlooking right now? What are the quiet, connective tools that are bridging the gap between today and whatever comes next?